Hello, and welcome to the flip side of adversity. So let's talk about it. Leadership in uncertain times doesn't always look like climbing higher. Sometimes it looks like starting over. So I want to welcome you to this conversation. I am Dr. Veirdre Jackson, and tonight's conversation is for every leader who has quietly asked themselves, why doesn't what used to work anymore? This week, I'm joined by Ariel Baker for a powerful and honest conversation that's titled The Reality of Reinvention: What They Don't Tell You About Starting Over. Ariel pulls back the curtain on the unseen side of leadership: capacity limits, caregiving, identity shifts, neurodivergence, and the grief that can come with becoming who you are now, not who you once planned to be. That's a whole word. Together, we'll explore what happens when a leadership model can no longer hold the reality of your life and how redefining success, designing within real limits, and choosing authorship over approval can actually reshape not only how we lead, but what we build in the community. This episode is for leaders navigating uncertainty, transition, or just that moment when the old goals no longer fit, not because you failed, but because you've actually grown. So let's tune in. I want you to take some notes and breathe deep. Reinvention isn't weakness, it's leadership with wisdom. We're live tonight. It's starting now. So let's get set for the flip side. Strong leaders in this season. Leadership and influence. It's rooted in the responsibility you take. You pay attention to the patterns, your calm, your strength, your hope. It's all integrated. We are living in a time where trust is fragile and people are watching not just what leaders say, but how they decide. Integrity is not optional anymore. Obedience is going to cost you. In this season, we're not just flipping adversity, we're forming leaders who can carry what comes next. Leaders from across all dimensions of fields and spaces, they're going to come together to give you the best of their wisdom. And I want you to leave each episode with a call to action. That's the work, that's the calling, and that's the conversation we're stepping into together. Hey, well, as I shared in the intro, we are having a conversation with Ariel Baker, and I'm so excited. We newly connected, and one of those people where you immediately connect and say, wow, our minds think in similar patterns, and her integrity to uplifting, to community, to showing up authentically, just excited me to be able to invite her as one of our 47 leaders that we are talking with in 2026. So let me tell you a little bit about her. Ariel Baker oversees the growth of YWCA Tri-County Area's workforce development efforts, leading the development of new programs and partnerships that expand access to entrepreneurship, career readiness, and post-secondary pathways. This work includes WE360, Teen 360, Graduate Pottstown, and the launch of a new workforce training initiative designed to support adults navigating career transitions and economic mobility. So, if you have watched the landscape like I have watched the landscape, just her bio tells you why I invited her to this conversation. So grab your note paper, grab your pen, and grab a friend. If you have not shared this yet, now is the time, because we are welcoming to the flip side of adversity, Ariel Baker. Yes.
Thank you so much for having me.
Oh, I am so appreciative of your yes. And so I think the initial, especially when you sent in the title of the episode,
Okay.
I immediately felt like, oh, yes, this conversation is going to resonate with people. There are so many people who are in the middle of transitions and they're labeling them as failures. They're losing sight of really who they are, who they thought they were.
That's the
because
one.
that title became an identity, and as human beings held on to that, and now that doesn't exist. And so you literally, the title of this conversation is one in which I'd like to start by first asking you, what are they not talking about when it comes to either the word pivot or starting over?
I think what they don't really talk about is how hard it can be to let go of what you thought you wanted.
That part.
Like you set goals, or I mean, I hope people are setting goals for themselves, and you have a plan in your mind, even if it's like vague. You set a path, and then something might knock you off that path. You might have to stop and choose to step off that path, and letting go of where you thought you were going to end up, and then who you thought you would be when you got there is really hard.
Yes. Our very first episode. So you are leader 3 of our 47. And so our first conversation was with Dr. Danny Martin, and she talked about the weight that leaders carry and connecting that to grief. And that word grief isn't just about a physical death, but grieving the story that you had written for yourself, the story or the image that you had of I should have gotten to. How have you learned to navigate the pitfall of getting stuck in a place of grief?
I'll be honest with you. Like, this was actually a conversation I had with a therapist once about kind of being too busy to wallow. That that I had things to do. And those things weren't going to do themselves.
Yeah.
And then that was a lot of different things. Like, I'm a mother. I was a wife. I'm a daughter. And all of those things, like, they required my continuous effort. It took me a long time to get out of what I call a plate spinner mentality, where you always have to be touching it or else it falls apart. So
you just stepped on somebody's toes. I'm just telling you right now. They're like, plate spinner? What are you saying? So what if I want you to talk to the plate spinner right now.
So I think, so the job I was in at the time, it just always required constant attention. Like I was getting emails at 10 p.m. and 7 a.m. and, come in at night and on the weekends and this be your life. But then at the same time, you're a mom. I had children at the time who were just entering school. We were finding out that they were special needs and all of that. On top of that, my husband wanted my time and attention. My mom needed me to come help her with things. And it just felt like I needed to always be like spin, step. You know what I mean? Like I never had a chance to like rest, put anything down. I could never tap anybody in. Like it was all on me to keep it going. And not that my mother needed a ton of help, but she's a boss on her own. But,
a whole boss lady.
Yes. But, and that kind of raises the bar, doesn't it? Like that when you have a mother who sets a high bar, you feel like you got to live up to it. And there's a lot of expectation there. And so like to just be awesome, to be an awesome mom, to be an amazing in your career, to wife properly.
Yes.
And
so how do I release the what in my mind is an unrealistic expectation to be all the things to all the people,
yes,
and a whole leader within yourself?
I gave myself permission to pause, to say no, and to assess my capacity before saying yes and setting expectations.
So that part. So we have already heard a leader say, I gave myself permission. But the second part, say that second part again.
Oh, the pause?
The pause and then,
Oh, check my capacity.
yeah.
Because you might not really have it. And, to really assess honestly and truthfully what the next thing someone's asking you to do is going to require of you. And to be able to set an honest expectation and say, no, I don't think I'm capable of that. Here's what I can give, or I can't give anything to that. I'm full up right now.
And how does that then help you, not help? If I say, no, I cannot, how do I then also not think less of myself in that no?
I would just like to think about it like, what kind of example are we setting? Like, if you're a mom, what kind of example are you setting for your children? Is this how you want them to work? How can I tell my mom that she needs to take a break if I'm never taking a break either? And the same thing, like, I'm a whole human person, like a whole human person. And I feel like that's a hard one that we don't factor ourselves in. So if the first step, I would say, if you're a plate spinner, make a plate for you. And touch that one sometimes too. Because it pick it up, put it back on its spindle and touch it. And that's the time that you need to possibly start to build the habit of, where are you at?
There's this quote in a refill session that I do that I forget where it originated from. I've had it for so long. It says that if your compassion does not include yourself, it is incomplete.
Facts. I love that. Advice I always give to people who tell me that they have a hard time, like, tooting their own horn or thinking of themselves well, is pretend you're your best friend. How would you talk to you? So that we can, you would not take, if your best friend told you this about how she was being treated or spoken to, this would be unacceptable.
Absolutely.
Treat yourself. Imagine, pretend that you are your best friend.
And we had a psychiatrist on the show who actually said that your brain believes your voice more than any other. So I would lean into that amazing advice and add on. And when you start saying it, record it so that you can listen to it back.
In We 360, we talk about using the authenticity indicator to figure out who we are before we set goals and before we, it's like a step 0. Part of it is the habit of thinking positively. And so, once we know exactly who we are and who we want to be, then to make a habit of reinforcing that. Because your brain likes to do the same thing over and over again. So if you make a conscious, intentional habit of thinking positively, of not letting yourself, get into the negatives, it becomes the habit, and then it really will change your view. It really does.
Yeah. I think that's an amazing segue into thinking about, as we prepared, and I mentioned this off camera, when we think about so many women, and specifically women of color, who in this landscape have either chosen to step away, been pushed out of the way, and there is a tape that begins to run in their head that can sabotage their next. And that habit of, no, let me practice saying to myself who I still am, because I'm a whole person apart from what just happened to me.
Absolutely. I mean, I feel like, women of color especially are coming out of almost a time of quiet, of contemplation, of rest. And I think, as we re-engage, I think, to still hold space for who you are as a whole person and what might have happened and what might need to happen differently going forward, I think is so important.
That the concept of that there is now a wave of, okay, re-engaging, stepping back in, making a decision to do the thing that adds value to my life, not just the thing that kept paying the bills. and they're walking into entrepreneurship. They are launching the books. They are doing things that actually this shaking may have forced them into, but now they're finding new ways of elevating their voices and showing up in authentic ways. And I love it how this concept or this tension between authorship and approval. Can you pull those two apart for me?
Well, it's funny. At the YW, we have an all-staff meeting, and it was, what would you say to your younger self was one of the things, and we were asked to share. And the thing I would share with my younger self is, everybody doesn't have to like you. And that's a hard one. I know.
Someone has just grabbed their pearls and
Clutch the pearls.
wait, what
Hold
are
them.
you saying?
Hold them, embrace.
What are you saying?
Everybody doesn't have to like you. I have given you permission that everybody doesn't have to like you, and you can move forward. And stop having that be a motivator. Because I think once you stop allowing that to factor in, you can be your more authentic self. That you can write your own story without people's approval weighing in. And then it helps you redefine your own success for the things that really matter to you. And you're not trying to measure yourself with somebody else's ruler.
I've had literal conversations with women who cannot identify what they actually like. And when I read in preparation for our conversation, this concept of authorship over approval, like really understanding your voice, like, what do you like? What do you want to eat?
Yeah, that's real. I mean, that was me. Like, so it took me a long time to get there. Like, absolutely, I'm a recovering people pleaser.
It's okay.
Yeah. And then this was, so like 30-year-old me had to like have a hard pivot and sit back and look, and it's like, this is not what I want to be spending my time on. These are the only hours and days I have. And how do I want to spend them? And it's important that I factor in at some point. And that's why that authorship is so important.
So this conversation, the show is called The Flip Side of Adversity. Was there a moment or season in time that really that you can share that you said, I've got to make this, like this flip is non-negotiable for where I need to get to next?
Yes. And it was actually, so like I said, my children were starting school, and I had a job at a very toxic work environment. And I had been like steadily like climbing, making moves. Like I got all the way up to like director of operations, you know what I mean? Like, and I was like, this is who I am. I'm successful. And it was nonprofit, but still corporate, you know what I mean? And in Philadelphia, which is large, it's, everybody knows each other. Everybody knew me. And that mattered.
Yes.
But I was miserable. I hated it. Like, I liked the work, because who doesn't love helping people in the work? But it was just like, every day I'm like, with some of my coworkers and with bosses and bosses and bosses, it was like Office Space. You know what I mean? Like you had reported to 5 men who all were worse than the last one. I mean, so, and I could tell you so many stories.
Yeah.
I won't take up all her time, but I literally just needed a pause. I was like, I cannot do this anymore. Not one more day. But still had bills to pay, still had children to feed, and, all of that. And so just took like a full accounting of, where do I want to be? What are my skills that I can use? What are the things I like doing? What do I want to spend my time doing? And I really do have a philosophy and a hope that I leave the world a better place. I leave everything a better than I found it. And I was like, I'm not doing that here. And this is stopping me from being able to do that. So I quit that job. I blew the dust off of my fashion design degree for more, and literally started hustling, like went like door to door almost at like wedding boutiques and things like that, saying, hey, whatever you're paying for alterations, I'll do them for less. And can I leave a flyer? Can I leave a business card? And just kind of started it like that. And then you get a client, you get another client who stays, and steadily built a business. Got to the point where I only have to take the clients I want, which who doesn't love that?
Yes.
And was able to, over the process of really refining, because of course at first I was like, oh no, anybody who wants to give me money and I'll do it. And I'll beat that price. And, That's what I mean. Like with that authorship
Mhm.
was so important to say, no, I don't have to beat every price. I am not competing with David's Bridal,
Mhm.
to make
Mhm.
prom dresses. Um, my work has value and I have value and I bring value to the table. So, you learn lessons the hard way. You add things to your contract because they came up. And yeah, slowly over time, like really came into myself. I feel like I am more myself for sure than I was when I had to make that choice.
Mhm.
But that was an intentional decision to discover who I was, to decide what I
Yes.
like and what I want to be doing.
Yes, because we can get so consumed, one, by living check to check, or even the size of the check, the notoriety, the image,
Mhm,
that we lose sight of who we actually are. And that image of actually taking an audit
mhm,
of, what do I love to do? What can I do?
mhm,
You had mentioned off camera, we had briefly talked about that concept of soft skills
mhm,
that aren't really that soft, like they're really transferable. But having that moment to really do that with yourself,
mhm,
to reconnect with you, and then step out and do it.
mhm,
You talked about the hustle, and I want to make sure, because I see some people in here who are chit chatting, and I want to make sure a couple of them hear that there's a point in time in which you do start off with
mhm.
the hustle,
Yes.
but then you've got to be clear
Mhm,
when you're going to stop
mhm.
the hustle
Yep.
and really own the value of what you're bringing to the table. Like, you can't continue to give
Mhm,
stuff away for free.
mhm.
What was that conversation for you with yourself?
So it was it was when I mentioned the David's Bridal thing, that is a
Yeah.
real conversation I had. I was doing a really large wedding.
Mm.
So I did the wedding dress, a rehearsal dress,
Mhm.
7 bridesmaids, a flower girl, a groomsman suit. Like it was a lot. And over the course of a year, that was like all I was
Mhm.
working on for a year. And I had so many conversations about the price of things. And it just felt like it just happened over and over again until I finally like really lost my cool. And I was like, I am not competing with David's Bridal. I will give you all the things that you need. Go if you can get it for a better price, then go there. And I love that story about Picasso, about when he like drew on the napkin. Like you're not paying me for the effort of now. You're paying me for the years of like
Mhm.
energy, education, technique that went into being able to do this in a minute. So yeah, it was that. It
Yeah.
was like really having to, and then having the financial stability to say no to clients, to be able to be
Mhm.
like, I'm not going to be able to get Chinese food this week, but we're going to figure it out because
Mhm.
I don't need to deal with disrespect as I respect me.
All money's not good money.
All money is not good money. And that was hard, but it's true. And to be able to explain that and really like I said, that setting expectations, like
Mhm.
I'm not going to keep going back and forth with people about these things.
That right there, because I've had some conversations with women, with entrepreneurs
Mhm.
who are, oh, I can't go back and forth because I might lose them as a client, or if I don't
Let
bring,
them go.
if I don't drop my price,
Mhm.
then they're not going to buy.
I literally had a regular client tell me she didn't like a project that I told her she wasn't gonna like, and told me she was gonna throw something I made in the trash. I was like, "Cool, I'm gonna block you." I was like, "There's just
Mhm.
no." I was like, "So that was rude,
Mhm.
and our relationship going forward is no longer necessary.
Mhm.
I wish you all the best. Have a
Yeah.
day."
Yes, and recognize that you do not have to white knuckle grip
Mm-mm.
everything, because what's for you is for you. It will come to you, but know your worth
Yeah,
in the middle of it.
I deserved a good boss too, even if that boss was me.
I love it. I deserve a good boss too, even if that boss is me. Oh, so what does it mean in that season, um, to outgrow your goals?
Yeah, it was hard. Like, when I was thinking about like the
Mhm.
conversation when you kind of asked me about this, I was thinking about like why is it so hard?
Mhm.
Because it feels like you're looking back at like a younger version of yourself, and you have to explain all of these things and it like you have to explain the unexplainable to somebody who's
Mhm.
not been there, who hasn't gone through it. Why are we not where I thought we would be? I had dreams for us. Like, you have to tell this younger person to, and whoever has teenagers, that they believe everything is possible,
Mhm.
and to explain, oh, I'm so sorry.
Mhm.
We hit the ceiling. We crashed a
Mhm.
little bit. Our wings were waxed. We got too high or whatever. Like, it's not our
Mhm.
fault. And we need some grace
Yes.
to move forward. But look at
Yeah.
where we are.
But look at where we are. Like this happened, we may have dipped,
Mhm.
but we're not going to stay there.
Mhm.
But sometimes you have to shift
Mhm.
what it's not necessarily the vision that you thought it was going to be, but what if it's going to be better?
Exactly. To leave yourself open to opportunities, and to,
Mhm.
and for me, it's a struggle. Like I've shared with you, I'm neurodivergent, and sometimes rigidity is a problem.
Mhm.
Letting go and pivoting are problems, but to kind of to be a little bit more casual with myself
Mhm.
about where are we going to end up, and to keep the why in mind. Like, let that be your North Star. Like, what was I trying to accomplish? So working a million hours with ungrateful people wasn't the point. That
Mhm.
wasn't the purpose. The purpose
Mhm.
was to give me flexibility, to be able to spend time with my children in ways that mattered to me, to be able to do with my family and for my family the things I wanted to do, and to also be a good example of
Mhm.
entrepreneurship and independence and,
Mhm.
freedom that I think is kind of missing for a lot of our young people.
Yeah.
So, to build something from nothing is spectacular, and I deserve kudos for that.
Yes. When you think of young people,
Mhm.
so you are leading Team
Mhm.
360. When you think of young people, what is it that you want them to understand?
That it's okay if you don't know everything right now.
I had this same conversation with a 20 something.
Yeah, because
They
it's
give
okay.
themselves so much
They
pressure.
do. This is a real conversation I had with I have an 18-year-old, and we were just kind of talking about, like, what were his plans for after graduation and what was he thinking. And just through the course of the conversation, it came out that he just was expecting this feeling of readiness in adulthood.
Mm.
And I had to break his heart, and I felt terrible doing it. But the reality is, I was like, I am who I was when I was 19 too. Like, I'm, you know,
Mhm.
bruised and older
Mhm.
and hopefully a little bit wiser. Um, but I am like, there's never a moment
Mhm.
that all of a
Mhm.
sudden the answers are there. Like, the difference between being 19 me and, me is that I'm okay to say I don't know that thing. And I'm okay to ask for
Mm.
help, because everybody doesn't know everything, and that's fine too.
But it also sounds like you've done the work on yourself to be okay with saying, I don't know. Because every adult at
Yes.
age isn't okay with
Yes.
saying, I don't know. And
Mhm.
that doesn't diminish who I am, my value,
It
or the
does not.
power that I own.
Mhm.
It just means that I don't know the answer to that,
Mhm.
or I haven't figured that part out yet.
Yeah.
How are you, or how have you redefined success?
Yeah. So that was a big one. Like, so it used to look like, that corner office, that like big title. For me, I like the success that comes back to me from, like, in
Mm.
words. Like,
Mhm.
it's the person who, like I said, that I've left the world a better place. When people like reaffirm that that has happened, like, that is success to me. I like that my business, what I realized when I really audited was that the part I liked about my business was being part of people's special moments,
Mm.
to give them an experience that they would not otherwise be able to have access to, and to give them something unique and truly special. So I love
Mhm.
that part, and to
Mhm.
see it, and like to see somebody who has always been too tall or was too fat, you know what I mean? Especially
Mhm.
in bridal,
Mhm.
and or like the most hilarious thing, oh my god, the pockets, like, to see joy, to make joy for people, that's the part I like. And so that is success to me.
Yeah.
It stopped being about like a lot of those external motivators that
Yes.
people were judging. Oh, I've judged you to be successful. I'm good, thank you.
Mhm. Mhm.
But
That's important as I think about women who are transitioning, who are making pivots, who right now it doesn't look like what they thought
mhm,
it would look like. Have you taken the time to actually write down and define what success means. Like that in and of itself
Mhm.
is a whole workshop
It
that
is.
could free somebody.
I have, because I spend a lot of time looking forward to goals and what I'm
Mhm,
trying to achieve.
mhm,
I have goals for my career, for
mhm,
myself. I've also let myself go from the goals that need other people's actions to be successful. That is not for me to be. That is not my goal. How can my goal be
mhm,
what somebody else is supposed to
mhm,
do? So I have hopes for those people, but not
mhm,
goals around what they should be doing.
mhm.
Um, so yes, I have written them down. So, I think big. I'm a big picture thinker. I'm always a shoot for the stars. We're gonna get close enough, right? To have the YW be a leader
Mhm.
in workforce development in Montgomery County, leading into Berks, that the programs that I create feel accessible and inclusive and help people live better lives.
Yeah. Do you see a connection between, because I had this conversation with a young person. Um, so we have in common, my first degree was in fashion design from Drexel.
Hmm.
All of these moving pieces. And now at 56, I'm deputy chief in Montgomery County, owning, having a podcast, doing a whole,
Hmm.
but I can actually see how at the time it may not have felt this way, but they actually are puzzle pieces that are working together now. So, for example, I can stand in front of a group of people and stand in confidence, stand in clarity of like how I'm showing up
Hmm.
because of years of modeling
Hmm.
and fashion design.
Yes.
And how I literally stand on a stage is connected to that.
Hmm.
But if I got stuck in the fact that I'm not in New York designing,
Hmm.
there's so much energy would be wasted.
Hmm.
But it all is actually piecing together. So I say that to ask you, do you see how different pivots for you?
Absolutely. Um, I feel like I am a rich tapestry, right? Like, isn't that it?
I love that.
But I still bring up that I was a trained artist, so that when we're
Mhm.
talking about like feedback, like how I give feedback
Mhm.
shows up every day. Um, Really, how I think about everything, like how I like to build, like, because I don't know if you do it. I like remember how collections get made. Like you always like you do way more work than you're going to need to, and you
Mhm.
get down to those steps. So that's how you build perfection,
Yes.
but because you don't expect perfection from the beginning.
Right.
um that you let it, you let
Right.
it develop more
That creative
naturally.
space.
um so those things, I mean, but really, like, I learned a lot from a lot, like every job I've had has taught me something else, like, about, I've worked in retail. I
Mhm.
have worked in customer service. It taught me to under promise and over deliver.
Mhm.
And you can only do that by having clear expectations about what your ability is. So that and it's taught me that I really love relationships with people,
Mhm.
and I want those relationships to be long term. So to move with integrity, because nobody wants to spend time or be around or invest time in somebody who doesn't. So yeah, absolutely.
So when you think about some of the women who are pivoting, or even men
Mhm.
who are needing to pivot or to start over,
Mhm.
is there an exercise or a task that they can kind of look at these different intersections to connect it to a whole new masterpiece for right now?
I would say, like I said, we talked about the authenticity. Really spend time and sit with who you are. And you need, like, there's four ingredients for that. So one of which is unbiased processing, which is really hard one. You have to be able to look with honesty and integrity about yourself, your strengths and weaknesses. Sometimes strengths is harder for people to identify. It's really easy to say
Truth.
all the things you're doing wrong because those are in your face every time it happens. But to really be able to say, here's what I'm good at, here's what I'm like, here's where I excel, but unbiased. And then another piece, which is sometimes hard for people, is a circle, like an honest, like a with honesty, like people you can be fully open with. It doesn't need
Mhm.
to be a large circle. It can just one other person, but somebody who really knows all of the different sides of you,
Mhm.
to be able to look and tell you, I think that this is who you are, when you go to
Mhm.
them for feedback, when you go to be reset. And so that's how if you're looking, if you're pivoting, you can go to your circle, you can sit with yourself and decide like, this is leaning into my strengths. This is leaning into the things that are going to make me feel successful in here and feel like I'm accomplishing goals.
And what I'm hearing is in that process, it's okay for you to go back to the collective experiences to pull out what part of that brought you joy
Yep.
that you can pull into this moment
Mhm.
and create a whole new landscape for where you're this new awakening, especially that women and those who are pivoting are walking into.
Mhm. I mean, I
Mm.
hope that people pivot to joy.
Mm.
I feel like sometimes we expect people to do what they're good at, and that doesn't always bring joy, actually.
Yes.
So, and that's a hard one, and that's one that has come up in Teen 360. It's like, well, let's identify the things that we actually like, not just the things that come easily.
Hmm.
I mean, sometimes the things that come easily bring joy because they're easy, but is that what you
They're
want to be spending?
comfortable.
Yes. And
Hmm.
so, like, as we audit, a question I asked teenagers was, if you were only going to be able to make ends meet, would you be happy doing that? No. Well, then that's not the thing. So let's find the thing that you'd be happy doing for free.
I don't think that's just a teen question.
No, it's not. It is not, but it
Mhm.
is a question I asked. I mean, when he knew what he wanted to do.
Mhm.
Like he was so
Mhm.
sure at 16.
That part. So we've talked about you as a designer. We've talked about you as a creative, as one who has been on this journey, and you are also a community leader. So how has your personal reinvention begun to reshape the way that you build programs and you lead in community?
Um, it's made me move with transparency.
Mm.
Um, I think, I'm honest about like the struggles, about how I came to be where I was and where I thought I was going to be. So that people kind of feel like they're seeing, the rest of the room in the podcast for so to
Mhm.
speak, so that they understand that it's not easy, but we get there and we can be happy.
Mm.
And so like I design around, like I said, neurodivergent. So I try to give
Mhm.
tools and I say, use them how they fit and work for you. So I build from like that kind of a perspective. Like there's no hard and fast rules. There's no shortcuts. We
Mhm.
build step by step. That's how we climb the mountain, just one step at a time.
Mm.
And then we pause and look back at how far we've come, because that's important. We can't stay motivated if we don't see that we've made progress.
And there's such a slippery slope to grinding so hard that you never look back.
And that's why we start with establishing the why, right? You have to know
Mm.
why because you have to be moving towards that. That was me too. Like I started my business because I wanted to spend more time with my family. And then I found myself so exhausted and like worn out that I never even saw them. And
Mm.
that was not the why.
Right.
So,
There's almost a bookends to this conversation in starting with your why and in my mind write down what success looks
mhm,
like from the gate
mhm,
doing both of those,
mhm,
and it almost like creates these buffers or these bookends that create
mhm.
accountability to the journey itself.
Absolutely. We always end We 360, with a presentation and a quote is, if your dreams don't scare you, they're not big enough. And so I think that's it is
Hello.
it's you have to make sure that you're not thinking so small. I mean, I want things to be achievable, but I want you to think big. Like plan big and then make it achievable. And then but keep that as the goal, right? So that you have some steps to get to. And when you get there, and I believe everybody will, if
Mhm.
diligence and all the things, if you decide that that's still where you want to be getting to,
Mhm.
um now you set a new goal. Now that you've achieved this, look
Mm.
what you achieved. Now you can do anything, think bigger.
Yes. Don't be afraid to think so big that it's scary for you.
Mhm. It should be.
It should be.
Mhm.
When you so you wrote in um the description for our preparation, the reality of reinvention. What does that look like in everyday life?
Um, it's hard. It's about being
Mhm.
intentional.
Mhm.
like every day and giving myself grace. I'm not always great at that. It's about delegating, where delegation should be happening. And then also giving space to actually let somebody do the thing, even if they're doing it wrong.
And is it actually wrong, or is it just not the way you would have done it?
Exactly.
Right?
So
yes.
But to give space and to take those times to inventory, to check in with yourself. Like, am I still where I want to be? And am I happy doing what I'm doing? And if I'm not happy, what could I be doing to fix that? How could I change that? Is this a season? Like, is this something that's going to pass? And I just have to power through? Or is this the way of things and I need to do something different?
Sitting with asking yourself, am I happy? And what do I need in order to access that emotion of happiness? But then also being able to explore, like, this moment. And I've shared this with people, especially as an entrepreneur, because people are so quick to tell me, oh, you gotta have self-care, you need to take. I'm like, in this season right now, it's going to have to be hard. And it's for this season. And I see where this ends. I think the tripping point is getting in that hard place, and you have not identified when this is supposed to end. And you just stay in that head down grinding place. Yes. But this is a season of hard. And then when it has lasted too long, what do I need to do? I feel change.
So that's like one of those attitude things, right? Like, hustling is a phase of all entrepreneurship, right? Like at some point you have to, that's where you are, but that should not be all the time.
Yes.
And if it continues past what is a reasonable amount of hustling, what needs to change to fix it? And it might be that you look back. So for me, I looked at my business and decided very intentionally that I didn't want to grow and expand in a more traditional way. Like, I didn't want to find a brick and mortar. I didn't want to have a shop. I liked staying small. The part I liked was being personally involved with it. And so that's what, that was the why for me. But you have to stop hustling at some point. You cannot continue. It doesn't work that way. At some point, things need to be self-sustaining. And if they're not, what needs to change so that it can be? Like, have we not thought big enough? Because that's one that happens a lot, is that you weren't intentional about the growth of your business in a way that allowed you to take steps away from it.
So can we deconstruct that a little bit?
Sure.
Because the thought of, okay, I hustled, I'm hustling. This season is about a grind. But as you think about how you talk with your entrepreneurs in We 360, or as you're helping people build out their business, what do they need to begin to do so that elements of the business become self-sustaining? Like, you can't be the be-all and end-all to the business forever.
Yes.
What do they need to begin to build as a leader? What do they need to begin to build in so that you move from the hustle to get to this point? What do I now need to be considering so that I'm not at the center of everything?
So sometimes that can be situational. But there are 3 things that all businesses need, right? They need somebody to manage the money, somebody to do the marketing, and somebody to manage the business. And that should not all be one person. So I feel like, find the part you like the most, like, put them in order. And the first thing you should do is get rid of the thing that you like the least. You should outsource that thing. You need to build your business to be profitable enough to pay for somebody else to do that thing. Sometimes you can get a partner who wants to do that thing for free, or at least part of the business, and share in profits. But that's it. That's, like, you need to be making sure. And then eventually you should be getting down to one of the things. You should only be doing the part that brings you the most joy. Maybe you and the other person that you've got that's a partner split that thing, but that's the management trinity. And that's what it's what investors are looking for. But you can't do everything.
Right.
It's okay. I understand every business starts. I mean, I started doing everything, and I feel like I handed like a shoebox full of receipts to, like, to my husband to help me. Like, I was like,
Mhm.
I don't know,
Yeah, I
I
can't.
can't. But you learn, and then I
Mhm.
was like, I hate doing this, and it is worth every penny of this profit to
Mhm.
not have to do this and to get it done right. And usually they're going to do it better than you did it
Right.
anyway.
But that's a part of the plan.
Hmm.
And as you're building and leading business or organization, it's really identifying, if you're the leader in the organization, what part of this do you do really well
Hmm.
that you now need to delegate to someone else who does that thing that you can't do well,
Hmm.
and release it. Or as an entrepreneur, it's building or even shaping your grind
Hmm.
so that your part of your end is, I'm doing this so that I can build in this bookkeeper,
Yep.
because this here thing cannot stay on my plate.
It can't.
Mm.
Everybody can't do everything. I
Mhm.
mean, and I think about like all different kinds of businesses, like artists, like,
Mhm.
you're going to be making art. Well, so if you're making art, do you have time to be spending all the time doing the social media? Do you have time to be sitting there reconciling every receipt for every like tube of paint and paintbrush? Like, no, you do
Mhm.
not. Like, that's insane. And the thing that makes the money for the business is the art. So every second away from that is literally costing you money.
Mm.
So,
Mm. Mhm. Mhm. So you have mentioned it a couple of times, juggling, being a mom,
mhm.
neurodivergent, a community leader. How how's that shaped you?
Truthfully, I don't know that I actually sought to be a community leader. Um, I have a community leader mom, who's like, a superstar in the nonprofit world.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and so I grew up like with the expectation, being voluntold I was going to adopt her causes. So, I made murals for the food bank.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
I've worked at every nonprofit she's ever worked at. And literally at the YW, like they used to call me, hey, can you help us with data entry? Can you help make a flyer? Can you design this menu? Like literally like, sure, I can help. I can always pitch in to support. So when the opportunity came to run this little tiny program that nobody was even doing anything with, she was like, oh my God, it's so perfect for you. Please apply. And I was like, I don't know, it's gonna take away from my business, which is kind of like in a good place right now. And it was such a little job, right? It was like not even full time. And but then it was nothing. Like I came in, there were no previous contacts, there were no participants to call, there were no events on the calendar. I was like, oh, okay. So like we're really starting from scratch. And I tried to build the program that I needed, and that made me have to be out in the community. And then like you said, when you move with integrity, when your attitude is I want to be helpful, you come with a servant's heart. Um, People want to be around that and want like look to that, and I'm also bold enough to
Mm-hmm.
stand up for people to say, I think you did great, or I think you need to stop.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And I give myself permission to leave whenever it's not comfortable, to be honest about how people's actions affect me. And I think that made people start to look for me. I was not looking to be a community leader. I was just looking to help other women entrepreneurs the ways that I would have loved to some help, and to create community for women, because I feel like we need it so much. Being an entrepreneur can be lonely. You're like, for me, I was literally alone in my basement at night, like working while my family was asleep. And then my whole life revolved around like, being with my family, but then being alone to do my work. Um, and that sucked. And I didn't
Mm-hmm.
know any other women entrepreneurs except for my best friend who had a full-time job and a hustle on the side. And we like did like we shared notes, and I just remember trying to recreate that for We360, that same kind of I have somebody to commiserate with.
Yeah.
And I think that they started to lean in because sometimes the person they could commiserate with was me.
You created the program that you needed.
Mhm.
And sometimes people are creating something to make money, but you are saying create the thing that's going to create impact.
Mhm.
And the benefits of that will eventually follow. Will
Yeah.
catch up with you.
Mhm. I mean, when I started, I literally just asked everybody I could who would answer my call. Like, what are your best practices? how are you being successful in this?
Mhm.
And then tried to kind of like nitpick like through all the
Mhm.
things that I thought were going to
Mhm.
work for our specific community.
Mhm.
And then when I say like all but went door to door,
Mhm.
like saying like handing out flyers, like I networked so hard because I thought it was important and good work. The fact that we're able to offer a program, I think, of such high quality for no money virtually so that anybody
Mm.
can be there. I mean,
Mhm.
and I feel like it speaks to the quality of the speakers that volunteer their time with us
Mhm.
to be there.
So I'm sure people are like, "Well, what is the program?"
Okay. So We360 is a foundational education program. We combine like education. I hope at the end of it, everybody can make a business plan, a financial plan, and a marketing plan. But then we also bring in speakers. We're going to be implementing a new thing this year where we're going to have digital co-working space so that they can just be in community with each other with some light coaching and mentoring if they need it. So I'll be there and I'm going to see if anybody else wants to join in. But just a space where we can be in community, quietly working. Sometimes that body doubling is so important. And then we also have Muse, which is our women's business networking group. It stands for Mentoring and Uplifting Strong Entrepreneurs. That's going to meet once a month in person and then once a month virtually. So we're going to be, it's actually being more of a leadership focus this year, because we've realized that we needed to lean into that strong in the end, in the S in Muse.
Why?
Because we were hearing a lot of stories of women who now had that foundation. They understood how the business was supposed to work, but they were struggling with like moving in realms. Like, so we had somebody who got talked into a terrible contract because they didn't know how to stand up for themselves. Like, we had women who were, just not positioning themselves properly and were unhappy with where they were ending up. And we're like, so we really need to lean into that because they know what they're supposed to be doing, but it's hard to do it, right? It's hard to hold the line, especially when there's pressure. And there's so much pressure right now pushing against women to be quiet, to be pleasant.
Yes. How do they push back against that pressure?
I mean, for me, I always say to decide what's really important and be unwilling to compromise. I mean, and that doesn't mean that you have to be unpleasant, but boundaries are for you and they determine your behavior. So set boundaries around the things that are really important and decide what you're not going to be flexible about. And, like I said, some of that is educational. Like, if you don't know, you don't know. So we're going to make sure that we let people know, but we're going to position people and educate them around making sure that they know who they are authentically, how they set goals, how they hold the line for themselves.
And how can someone join and be connected with either We360 or Muse or the digital workspace?
So for We360, there's a sign up. It's yw3ca.org/We360. Muse, we have a Facebook page. We have a meetup group. Anybody looking for me on Facebook, Ariel Baker or Changemaker, who is our partner with Muse, that you'll find us. It's plastered all over the things. Programming starts up in the next couple of weeks, so we're really excited for February. It's making us busy, but really excited and really, looking forward to the year to come.
Yes. At a time in which a core part of why I'm shaping all of 2026 around conversations of leadership literally is embodied in this conversation is there's so much uncertainty, there's so much pressure, there's so much noise, and creating a space where people can hear from leaders to first allow to give them permission to pause and hear what I need so that I can stand up stronger, stabilize better, but then also find community to help me maintain that. And so I thank you. I thank you for sharing. I thank you for your honesty. And I'd like for you to think about that leader who is in the middle of the pivot.
It's a chaotic space to be.
Right.
It's a hard space because you're not really anything anymore, right? Like, you're not who you were and you're not yet who you are going to become. But give
Talk
yourself,
to them.
yeah, give yourself grace. It will all it will all work out well. It will move as it's supposed to. That doesn't mean that you just give up, like, like the story about, like, God sent the boat and the helicopter.
Yeah.
Like, you need to climb on the boat, but hold space for yourself and understand that this is a moment of transition. That transitions by their nature are undefined. Um, I would not have expected to be here where I am right now. Like, that was not the plan. But I'm happy. Like, I'm happy to be here, and I'm happy that me being here helps anybody. And I hope that these words and being transparent about struggles, and struggles are real.
Yeah.
So you got
The
this.
You got this. I know that's right. Giving yourself that grace to be able to recognize that a transition is supposed to feel uncertain, but you don't have to stay there. What is one action step that you want a leader who is listening to do? This episode ends,
Mhm.
and what is one thing, one action step you want them to take as soon as they're done with this episode?
I want them to write down one achievable goal for this year. So a big year goal, but one thing that you're going to accomplish that takes multiple steps, and think it through. And then I want you to work towards that for all year.
I want to honor the depth and honesty that Ariel brought into the space. She reminded us that capacity changes ambition, and that wisdom in leadership is not about pushing past limits, it's about designing within them. Neurodivergence, motherhood, professional responsibilities, these aren't obstacles to leadership. They're actually the lenses that sharpen it. What stood out most is this truth. Sometimes the leadership model you're in doesn't fail because you're incapable, but because your life has actually expanded. And when that happens, redefining success isn't quitting, it's maturing. Reinvention often carries grief because it asks us to release earlier versions of ourselves who couldn't get imagined. That leader, that you're becoming. Here's your action step. This week, audit your leadership. Ask yourself, what goals have I outgrown? What systems no longer honor my capacity? And where? Where am I being invited to choose authorship over approval? If you're standing in your own flip side moment here, I want you to clearly start over. It doesn't mean erase your experiences, it means integrate them. Reinvention is not a retreat, it's actually leadership practices with courage, clarity, and care. So thank you for being part of this conversation. Lead well, lead wisely, and trust that who you are becoming deserves the future that you're actually building. And we'll see you same time, same place next week, right here on the flip side. I'll see you then.